Sorry, busy week.
All right. Let's please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody.
Roll off the stairs here.
Arlene, can you do roll call, please?
Waldred,
Yes, here.
Francis Bach,
Here.
Brian Burns, absent. Del Cullum, absent. Rick Drew,
Here.
Jim Grimes,
Here.
Susan McGraw-Keeber,
Here.
Bill Taylor,
Here.
and Susan Vorpal, absent. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, move on to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to address the board? No, this could be quick and easy tonight.
Until you open your mouth.
Yeah, all right. Move on to new business. Aquaculture, New York State DEC license to collect and possess. I'm not, is that your thing, John?
I got it.
Okay.
So, some oyster growers in the gardening program have been permitted by DEC permit called License to Collect and Possess to bring oysters to their personal docks and hang them off there under certain conditions. And we don't have any corresponding way of keeping track of these. So I sort of drafted a trustee aquaculture permit. It's in your files. It's a kind of a combination application for doing the same thing, bringing some oysters back from the gardening program, hanging them off the docks. And the way I envision this working is that this all has to run through the shellfish hatchery on the DEC side anyway. So Barley has the license to collect and permit applications. We'll give him the trustee aquaculture permit application. He can give both of those to a grower that's interested in bringing some oysters back to their property. They'll have to, in order to get our permit, they'll have to have a completed DEC license to collect and possess. Then they can bring that to the trustee office, fill out our application, and get our permit right then and there.
And there's no fee?
No fee.
That's
And what
great.
I didn't put in this permit are all the conditions which are in the DEC permit. Things like how many oysters, the time of year you can do this, things like that. I felt that would be redundant. And all I think we need to do is draft a letter to send to the DEC to let them know what our interests are. And that would be mainly making sure that the seed that is used comes from the shellfish hatchery. Now, so far, all the DEC permits have required that anyway, but I think we just should reiterate that.
Yeah.
And
So basically, we'll get a copy of the DEC permit, photocopy it, put it in our file with our permit, and they're good to go.
right,
Hey, John, may I ask you a couple of questions?
sure.
Does the applicant for this permit have to be a homeowner, or could they be a guest at someone else's dock or shorefront property?
The actual applicant has to be the property owner. Under the DEC permit, the license to collect and possess, they are allowed to work with other people, and that has to be stated in their permit,
So-
who those people are.
So if I'm a homeowner and you're a participant in the shellfish gardening program, could you just explain to me how that would work? Or are we not quite there yet?
I'm not exactly sure about that.
Okay.
As far as I understand, if you're a participant and you own a dock, a home on the water with a dock,
Right.
and this has to be on a dock.
Okay,
It can't just be on a mooring or
staked out somewhere.
staked out somewhere.
Okay,
Then you can qualify for this license from the DEC, but you can work with other people, but you have to let the state in there, in that application, DEC application, who those people are.
So the homeowner applies, and if I'm a grower, so you're the homeowner, I'm a grower, and you get a permit, I could possibly float some oysters under your dock.
I believe that the homeowner has to be the participant.
In
They
the-
can work with other
They
participants.
could invite a second or third in,
Yes.
but they have to be the dock owner and a gardener
I believe that's the
to get it
case.
started.
And
All
I'll-
right,
I'll
so maybe we
just
can double check that for
double
next
check
time.
on that.
Okay, so what you're saying is they have to be already be a part of the town.
They have to be a
Trustee.
part of the gardening program.
Okay.
Now, would that give, so let's say I am a participant, and I take 500 of my 1,000 oysters and I elect to float them. Would that give me more opportunity to grow more in my,
No, I don't believe so. You get certain amount in the
Okay.
gardening program, you can take some of those. It's not like you can take half of those and get,
yeah, I don't know if you could maybe invest
Place.
in more, and that way we'd have more capacity and more production going on, which I kind of like the idea of, you know, if it's
Well, I don't think
possible
that-
to facilitate, you know,
the ability to take these things home, in
Mm-hmm.
effect, wasn't in order to increase production. It was so that people could sort of have them on hand,
more accessible,
more accessible.
rather than having to go down to the actual garden.
Right.
So these would be more of the mature oysters for the most part, that they might want to
Generally,
then
yeah.
consume or share with friends, or whatever the case might be. Okay, just seemed like it might be an opportunity to get some more
Over-
oysters in the water.
I was going to say, over the course of the last year and a half, when I've visited some properties with docks, and people have told me that they have their own oysters growing off the end of the dock. So my question was, a couple of weeks ago, when I attended or this past week in the nursery event of Varley, isn't it important that the trustees also be involved with a permit, so at least we know who is growing oysters? Because I did meet one family and a few others who said, well, why do we need a permit from the trustees? And I think it's nice to just know who's growing oysters off their dock
Well,
and
they're
using our
growing them
bottom lines.
in our water bodies, so.
Right.
They
So I
should
think
be,
this
they
is a
should
good
be
thing.
registering
There's a
with
risk
us.
of contamination.
Sure, and we don't want oysters that were taken maybe from a compromised area brought into our waters that could cause further problems.
Well, the main reason that the DEC instituted this in the first place came out of the SPAT program on the North Fork. People were taking them home, and the DEC also felt the responsibility of keeping track and knowing who was doing what where, because they're responsible for public health and shellfish sanitation. So here's a DEC permit authorizing a maximum of 1,000 oysters of any size, and no more than 5 culture cages. So that's going to be the limit on any of these things
Very good, for each location.
for each location.
Okay, very good.
Did you want to make a motion? or-
So I make a motion that we accept this wording of this application and permit and forward them to Shellfish Hatchery to be given out to interested participants.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Okay.
thank you, John.
Oyster Shell volunteers?
I just wanted to mention, Susan and I and Barley have been talking, getting together and trying to get this oyster shell collection program off the ground this year in a little bit larger way than we did it last year. Last year, we collected from one restaurant, got about, I think, 4 cubic yards. And we'd like to increase that this year. And what we're looking for are any interested residents out there that would like to volunteer to pick up oyster shells, possibly clam shells as well, from restaurants between Montauk and East Hampton. So if anybody out there has an interest in volunteering in that capacity, please get in touch with the trustee office, 267-8688, and Arlene will put you in touch with one of us.
Also, I want to add that we've started with the oyster farmers. Barley sent out an email asking people if they could come up with some ideas for a pamphlet for people to know what we're doing. So I sent in the town logo, the trustee logo, and Barley will send the oyster farming, the shellfish hatchery logo, and then he'll develop some questions, some information, and we have several people who were graphic designers who said that they would be happy to work on this, so we're moving along in that direction. But we did meet and we came up with some restaurant ideas as well, as because Bay Kitchen closed and it's reopening as Bostwick's, so we have a few ideas for restaurants. It's just the manpower, the woman power to actually do the job. And, but it's good. Maybe we could think about giving some community credit to students from college, like we do with the Aquaponic Protection Committee mosquito larvae.
Going to have
Possibility.
details to discuss.
Yeah.
Okay,
that.
I just threw it out there as an
Yeah, but there'll
idea.
be driving involved and stuff
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
so we have to.
Liability.
Let's see who calls.
Yeah. All right, and 2019 mosquito larvae survey.
Can I just chime in real quick on
Yeah.
the trustee permit before we move on? John, I think you did a nice job here, so from a legal perspective. Just a couple quick comments. Did you guys have an expiration period in mind? Is it a one-year permit, one-season permit? Right here, it just kind of says expires, which kind of leaves it open to however long anybody might have in mind. Should we put on there a one-year permit or one season or whatever it may be?
Well, it will be the same term as the DEC.
Okay.
permit. So that's why they have to get the DEC permit first. It will have the beginning and end dates on it.
Okay.
Those dates will just be put on our permit. So it'll be the same dates for both.
Okay, John, typically, how long's the DEC permits?
It's a
typically?
year.
It's only 1-year permits?
Yes.
Okay.
And unfortunately, they're not all like January 1st to December 31st. They're all different, so.
Right. And then you have here that the trustee will sign this permit. Is that meant to be that any trustee that reviews it can sign it, or is that intended to be the clerk to be signing the permit?
I don't know. What do you recommend?
I would recommend the clerk just for consistency purposes. I think the clerk signs most of the permits. Is that correct? No?
Yeah.
Sometimes two trustees, one the clerk and a committee member, depending on the permit.
Okay. So it's kind of up to you guys then. Are you comfortable having whichever trustee and wants to sign the permit? That's fine with me.
Usually it's from the committee, so it'd be someone from the aquaculture committee
Okay.
or the clerk.
I think that's fine. Don't want to overthink it, but just wanted to make sure we had the conversation. That looks good. Thanks.
So we're comfortable with one trustee?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, mosquito larvae?
We had a meeting yesterday with the people who have signed up to work with us, which we begin on Monday morning at 7 a.m., Springs General Store. And we have several people who are coming from college, which is nice because they're all marine biology, scientist-oriented students who are excited about doing the program. We have some people who returned from last year. We have a new app that Tom Iwaneko came yesterday to the meeting from Suffolk County Vector to show us a new improved, streamlined app, which we're still kind of reviewing a little bit, but we are all set to go. It'll be, a fun experience in the heat on the salt marsh. And what Tom said from our meeting was that he's hoping that this will give enough data to perhaps readdress going forward with the salt marsh restoration project, which I was very encouraged by, because I would like to see that happen sooner than later. But it's a very good program in that we've targeted the hot spots, and we've lessened the amount of methoprene and BTI that has to be used. And I think we're making improvements, and it's for the health of the community, which is very important. So at this juncture, I did send out a statement from Tom to the Aquaponic Protection Committee, of which I'm a member. And Tom described why we can't just merely give up the spraying at this juncture, because it's different types of body, it's different salt marsh, it's not like Wertheim, it's similar, but not the same. And so I think that the program will have interesting results this season. We have had so much rain, so we probably will have more mosquito larvae to handle, but we'll see. So we're ready to go Monday. John?
And we'll need to authorize some funds to pay stipends to some of the participants.
Do you want to put a motion forward now, and we'll settle that?
What I'd like to do is, put a motion to authorize, so let's say $6,000. And my reasoning is, last year we had fewer participants and fewer weeks. This year we're going to have more participants, more weeks. Last year we paid out about 30% less than we authorized. So 6,000-ish is about 30% less than what it would be this year if we go all the weeks that are proposed and all the participants that are going to be paid stipends participate. Now,
So
that may or may
what do
not
you think?
happen.
What do you think the bottom line number is going to be on this?
I really don't know.
We don't know.
It'll be
Depends upon the
somewhere
weather,
between
too.
6 and 10, I'd say.
Okay, I had second a motion for 6. If we reach a point where we're coming close to the threshold, you come back
That's
to
the
the
idea.
board, and by that time, I would hope that you have like some sort of projected budget that takes you through the end of the year.
Yeah, that's the idea.
All right.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, move on to Georgica. Excuse me. 26 LaForest Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-012-5-3. Application for Phragmite management, buffer restoration, and to fill an existing man-made pond.
I haven't visited this property yet, but I'm very familiar with the property. I did speak to the applicant's agent a couple of weeks ago about it. He just submitted this past week to the village on this, and there's a significant amount of this project that's really upland and it's outside of our jurisdiction, but I think it's one of the ones that's going to be very important that we're sort of coordinated with the village with what is going to be something that's going to be acceptable to us on the upland to really do something that's measurable. Prior to this property's been basically mowed right down to the water's edge. This alleged man-made pond is a little questionable. It may have been dug, but if you do the wetland flagging over here, the pond and the associated terrain is actually in the wetland. So personally, I don't think I'm going to be really in favor of filling in this freshwater wetland body. It's been there for at least 30 years that I know of. So I think maybe there might be a better project here where the applicant keeps that freshwater pond, because what that thing does do is it does very much function as a holding pond to give it an opportunity to treat this water before it spills into Georgica. So what we talked about today, Billy and I, is we're going to get together next week. Maybe, Rick, maybe you can be available.
Yeah, that'd be great.
To meet with the applicant and the village so that we can kind of get this thing off on the right foot and all be on the same page.
Sounds good, Jim.
It's showing like almost 30,000 square feet of Phragmites?
Yeah, it's probably
Wow.
pretty close.
Wow.
Yeah, because there's a portion of this that are kind of like, I wouldn't call them upland because the whole area is wet, but there's a significant amount of this Phragmites that's actually emergent.
Yeah.
It falls.
Like an old floodplain,
What's that?
like a floodplain area where it's
It's like
growing.
a floodplain, but you know what? It's kind of like almost a drainage swale, this
Yeah, yeah.
property. So the whole property
Wet.
is wet, and I know years ago, they used to mow this weekly, right down literally until the mowers got
Into the pond.
stuck.
Yeah.
So we'll be talking about buffers and.
Yeah, no, but they're actually proposing that. This may be a very good project. My question is, why you want to fill in a pond that is not lined? This is groundwater.
Yeah. Yeah, what are you going to do with the water?
Yeah, I can't quite get my head around that
Let's
yet.
go take a look at it.
All right.
Why do they want to fill it in? They just don't want it on the property?
They want to do it. They
Attracts
want to.
mosquitoes? or-
No, I don't know. They want, we'll hear the arguments of the applicants. I'm not going to speculate.
Do you know if this, I mean, all the groundwater ponds are very high now. Do you know if this one is similar?
This one holds water all season long. I've never seen this where it's dry.
But it's not overflowing due to the heavy rain
It's
we've
not,
had? Spilling out?
it's not spilling into Georgia. It tends to kind of fill up, and there's a pretty good bank between the pond and Georgia, and then it tends to kind of adjust back into the water table, so.
All right. Napeag Lazy Point, we have a request to remove Marilyn Badkin from lease of lot number 19N on 244 Shore Road at Lazy Point and leave just Linda A. Badkin on the lease. Has anybody had a chance to review this at all?
No, I haven't. But
Is the request from Marilyn or from Linda?
Request, they both signed
Both
it.
signed it? Okay.
But at the moment, all we have is a handwritten letter.
what do we need to do that?
I'm not sure.
Do you want Ms. Batkin to
Table?
come in?
Is
the
this on-
meeting?
is this on a new lease or on a?
No, this
No,
is
it's an old
existing.
existing.
They've had it for a very long time.
I don't see a problem with it personally.
I mean, she's already on it.
Yep.
So
Do
Well,
we want a
both-
notarized signature
I
from?
thought both
We
of them were on
probably
that
should do that.
list.
Don't, Chris, you think we should get a notarized letter for this request?
Probably would be a good idea.
I think we should at least take a look at it. Let's table it. I'd like to look at it myself and just make sure there's nothing a little fishy about it.
Okay.
Both parties are agreed to it.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
make sure everyone's on the same
Yeah.
page.
I don't think she wants, her mom was starting a 35-year lease, and her mother's elderly, and the mother is requesting that she could start clean with this whole new process of financing. So, yeah, if you could figure out what we need to do legally, you
Okay.
know.
Let's table it. I'll take a look at it and then we'll make a decision.
And I think having something notarized is a good idea.
Well, you just want to make sure that both parties are agreeing to this.
Right, that one's
this
not being
exchange.
removed
Yeah,
without legal.
Their consent.
throw mama from the train.
All right, let's move on to old business. Powering of soft clams. I think that's John.
Well, me and Jim,
John knows more about it than I do.
we authorized at the special meeting, I think it was, a couple of weeks ago, for Bayman to do some sampling around in Accabonac, 3 Mile and Napeag Harbors to look to see how, if clams were there in certain areas. And they've done that. I'm not sure they've completed it. What I'd like to do is just have a discussion at this meeting, and so that at either our next meeting or the meeting after that, we can offer a resolution to go ahead with this program for, my thought is July and August, possibly ending Labor Day or the week after Labor Day, something like that. That was their request from the Bayman, that they be allowed to do it during the summer when the market is here. And I think the issues are where and how many people are we going to entertain here. I think in terms of where, we kind of identified areas in 3 Mile Harbor, sort of south of Hands Creek, down to about the Duke property, the Duke Dock, north of Hands Creek, up to about the Sammy's Beach area, stopping short of where clams are seeded, and there's access point, and a lot of recreational clamming is done. Possibly out on Sammy's Beach, close to Dayton Island, along that shore, assuming they find that there may be some soft clams there. And that would be it for 3 Mile. And in Napeag, the areas we're talking about were east of the art barge, down to about where the houses start, west of the art barge, around the bend, past Beeman's Creek, and up to about where the creek that goes into Eel Pond
Pond of the Pines.
is. Yeah, Pond of Pines, just before the houses, or just about where the houses start. And also possibly the flat that in the past peeled off Hicks Island to the east of Hicks Island. So they have checked the southern areas there and found some soft clams. That haven't heard back about the Hicks Island check yet. And Accabonac, as far as I know, hasn't been checked. I thought it might be worth discussing whether we wanted to hold off on Accabonac this year. It might be an area we could.
I would like to not issue too many, have this done in too many areas. Let's let these guys do a rotation where we're not basically extinguishing the soft clams.
Yeah, 3 Mile and Napeag is plenty of.
3 Mile and Napeag.
Yeah, let's try and
Start
stick to
there.
that. Now, the discussion we did have a while back was, we've had a couple crews come to us and ask about this probing and this testing, but how many permits are we looking to issue on this?
Well, that's the question. Are we going to limit this, the special permit, to 6, 8, 10, 12,
I would keep,
25 people?
my attitude is I would rather see fewer permits. I recognize that some people may cry foul, but we have the people that went through a process of contacting us, communicating with us, and I think it's real easy to get a bunch of guys out there, and it's going to be very, very difficult if somebody's stepping out of bounds on this, the more permits that you have floating out there. And if this goes well this year, we can always expand the program next year. It's a bit of a pilot thing. Yes, it's been issued before, but it has not been issued in a number of years.
Right.
What's, excuse me. I was wondering what size cruise does this?
Well, it's like two-man crews,
Two
from what I
people,
understand.
Yeah, I think it's minimum 2 men.
I mean, would there be like 4 people that want to do it together or something like that?
They may, but I think they'd have 2 boats, 2 outboards, or 2 sleds, 2 outboards. 2 people would work on each, so.
So basically,
So
the
that's
permits
2
would cover
permits.
2 people,
Yeah, well,
3 people?
Are these
4
individual
people?
permits or permit per?
Well, that's for the sites, I guess.
Well, I think you almost have to do individual permits,
Yeah, I
because
think
what
so,
it is you gotta have a bag limit per man. So,
that's the other issue, is what is that limit?
well, they.
In the past, it's been 3 bushels.
Okay, I think.
We talked about, in the meeting with them, the price is very high. The supply is very likely limited, and so they felt 2 bushels
Yeah,
would be
and I thought
adequate.
that was pretty fair self-regulation on their part.
Right.
And that's the other reason that I didn't want to see a whole lot of permits out on this, because, I could see this being one of those things where it's a 2-day windfall
It's an
for a
opening
bunch of
day.
people, and you know what, at the end of the day, nobody, we've depleted the population, and nobody really came out of it with anything measurably.
They'll knock the price down right away.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking about, is we're basically gonna have a glut for a week, and then it's gonna be like a bad year
over.
of scallops.
The other thing would be, obviously, that a participant would have to have a commercial shellfish license. It's not obvious, but that's what's been done in the
Yeah.
past. I think weekdays only would also be.
Yeah, I think
Smart.
that's common sense kind of thing.
Right. So I think the main question maybe we should think about and wait to see if we get some feedback is, how many of these permits do we feel we want to issue? And how do we want to what is it going to be? Like first come, first serve is kind of what we,
Would it be on a rotation basis during the summer if you issue a license to one?
No,
You know, they
I think
go
you gotta,
Tuesdays?
I think you gotta do a season. Because
All
that's, because
season?
you know what the problem, Susan, is when you get into that stuff, it's like if you got too many permits out on this, if you get guys that take it too much, that start powering in areas that weren't approved, or start going at the wrong times, what happens is when you're trying to find the guilty party,
It's
very-
impossible.
It's nearly impossible because everybody's
makes
pointing a
sense.
finger. And you know what? It's a first year. We haven't done this in a while. I don't want to find ourselves in a situation where the public comes back and says, "Good God, what did you guys do?"
right.
That makes sense.
I would have a conversation with Ed Michaels yesterday, and he pointed out that in order to do this, we're going to have to open a season for these clams
Right.
specifically.
Yeah, we have,
Which means
we have the
that
ability to do that.
non-commercial people have the opportunity also to go in and hook them.
Yeah,
And not power.
Not
for it.
power.
but they're not powering.
Right.
So, and you know what? They're kind of in a whole different zone.
Right, they'll be along the edge.
Yeah, so I don't see that as being a real.
I just want to make everybody aware of that.
Now, if
fair.
we're gonna if we're gonna open a season, and we've got the commercial guys limited to weekdays, what does the private sector have? Does that extend to weekends for the private sector? Does it,
You want to delineate it
Does it-
between the two
does it-
groups?
I would,
does it follow suit with the commercial guys? What's your thought, John?
I would limit the whole thing to weekdays.
Okay, because I think that's the most fair, because you're not giving one user group
More
priority
access.
over another.
Okay. Is there any lead time we have to do for opening a season? Is there a public notice or anything like that?
I would assume there is.
Yeah, we probably should public notice it.
So, I mean, we should perhaps vote
I
to open
believe
the
it does.
season tonight, right?
Are we ready for that, or do we want to do that?
I think, I mean, I think we have to write a resolution with
Okay.
all these,
And our next meeting's
factors
only
in
10
it.
days away, or 9 days away.
Well, do you think there's time enough between now and the next? It'd be nice to do it for the next meeting,
Yeah.
honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, there should be enough time, I would
Yeah.
think.
yeah, there's a
Make sure.
old resolutions that we can basically follow and just update.
And you can also discuss how to issue the permits. Is it going to be a lottery, or if people that have asked this year should perhaps get preference? People have done all the work about
You know,
official.
Bill, I think it's kind of fair to take the crews that came to us
Yeah, I think that's,
and, asked permission, went through the process, went out on their own time.
Did the survey.
Did the surveys. I really think those guys should
no,
get.
that sounds good to
should
me.
get-
Take
yeah.
preference.
Take preference over
Well,
anybody
I
coming.
mean,
to-
personally, I like the number of maybe 8, no
Well,
more than
8
10.
individuals or 8 crews?
If we're talking about the people that
Well,
came
I'm thinking
to
like
us, we're
8
basically
licenses.
talking about 6 people.
Okay.
6 to 8 people, 3, 4
So-
crews.
8 licenses would be
That'd be
sort of
4
a good
crews.
number, 10 licenses? What?
I'm not sure.
You're like keeping it tight?
All right,
Well, I'm
so-
just not sure about,
Yeah.
The
issuing
impact.
permits to certain people, if that's not going to be
Unfair.
opposed.
Well, the first year,
Well, it's first year. Next year, if we have other applicants,
And you're saying
you
it's a
can,
pilot
you
program.
can, you can do this as a lottery.
Well, if it's 2 people in a crew, what's the advantage to making each one of them have a license? Why can't
No,
a
it's because of
crew
the bag,
have a
no, it's
license?
because of the bag limit.
Per individual.
Yeah,
Unless you do 1 bag per person.
yeah, but I think with their goal, when they came to us, it was clear that they were looking for 2 bushels a man. That
So it's
was,
4 per crew, basically.
that would be 4 per crew.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that's.
you can make a day's pay out of it, so. Makes sense.
A good
all right,
day's pay.
so
Be a
we'll have
good day's
everything all ready for the
And
next meeting?
the thing is, if you have the individual permits, okay, for the individuals, what happens if Joe and Jeff start fighting a week into the season, okay?
They need
Guy
a
that wants to
mediator.
vote.
Now Joe or Jeff
Whose
decides,
output
well,
is it?
screw
Yeah.
you, I'm gonna take on a different partner. Well, now you're just stuck with, you know.
Two bushel.
Yes, if you have individual permits, now it's just stuck with, you just have 2 bushels. Keep everybody getting along, keep everybody happy.
There you go. Okay. So anybody want to work on something
So
for next
what are
time?
we saying here? 6?
And how many sites did you
10.
say, John, that
There's
that
only
we're
two-
going to open?
There's only 2 water bodies that we're actually
Okay.
doing permits.
So we
Mile
know
Harbor.
6 people basically came to us. We know who they are.
Yeah,
Then why
What
don't
out
we
of the
do
other
10?
2?
so you're
Why don't we
adding
do
2
10
more.
so it
The other-
allows other,
And how are those people,
Why, you thinking you're getting into?
no.
Power
No,
plant?
I don't have a commercial license.
Well, give you lead time to get one?
No, not interested.
Okay, good. It's probably be a conflict of interest here anyway. Not allowed to vote to add number of licenses just so you can get one.
All right, so you
well,
want to work on that for the next
let's
meeting?
leave that hanging. We'll
Yeah.
write up a resolution. We'll
And
talk
vote
about
on
how
that.
to
If we
do
could vote
the
on-
6,
If
8,
we could
10
vote on the
people.
number of, if we could vote on the number of licenses the next time, and the rule, you know, and the rules on how we're gonna do this.
And we'll see if we get any feedback on that.
Yeah.
Okay. This is real old business. Submarine groundwater discharge study from 2017. 2017, we had, who came to us?
Yeah.
Kim Barber.
Kim Barber came to us to do this study in Napeague Harbor. And we agreed to give her money.
But we made it conditional.
We
were
made it
asking for
conditional.
we were asking, I think we were asking for a more detailed explanation of the,
A motion was made to approve the funding to the amount of
You
$2,500
look at the dates.
for a site suitable at Napeague
We
Harbor,
asked for the information on June 12th, and we received it on July 10th, a
with
month
the
later,
condition that
so-
Kim submits a more detailed plan.
so we did get that.
We did get that.
We did get that, and
Pass it down.
I think nobody followed up with a second ask on the money, and we all,
Yeah, so did they, you know, this is pretty simple. We approved this literally 2 years ago. Have they invoiced us for the $2,500?
have not.
Okay, it's a real simple deal. We could vote on the $2,500 tonight, pending them invoicing us.
It's a donation, I think, is
Well,
but they could give us some.
Yeah, request,
Oh,
Yeah.
like
request for the
Dr.
donation or
Gold.
if they
Yeah.
just give us, that way there's a paper
a
trail
document.
Okay.
attached
Yeah.
to this thing.
Yep. That's fair.
So can we pay
You
it
want to make a
then,
motion
or?
to pay it?
I'll make a motion that we provide the $2,500. I believe at the time, I think the Art Barge was doing, or Lazy Point Community was
Point
doing
residents.
I think they did
$2,500 as
also,
well.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'll second that.
George, do you know if you guys did that?
Yes, I believe they
For
did.
Cornell,
Yeah.
a donation to Cornell a couple of years ago. I think that the association did that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, with Cornell, yeah. So I think we have a motion on the floor with a second.
Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I'll get a paper trail.
All right. And we're supposed to have a discussion on the placement of kayak or paddleboard racks at Northwest Creek, Mile Hill Road, and Settlers Landing.
Yeah, I mean, down at Mile Hill Road.
Hans Creek?
Yes,
Near-
okay,
nearby
that's what it's
there.
called, yeah. That's what she's
Alright.
calling it.
We talked about this a couple of years ago when we started to expand the kayak rack program, and John brought it up again this past week, which I think is a good discussion. A lot of the kayaks and skiffs that are down at the end of Mile Hill Road are just being left there year-round. They're chained up to trees at the edge of the beach.
There's
There's a
one that's
town reserve that's...
6 inches under the sand.
To the south and upland is a small piece of town reserve property there, so it's probably a pretty good site to work with. And it really needs to be cleaned up. It looks kind of like a yard sale down there of kayaks and windsurfers and paddle boards, so,
Yeah, it'd be nice to get something there.
yeah, and it's just, it's laying all over the vegetation. It's not really done right, John.
Yeah, I just have a
You're-
question on how, in the past, it's been handled to build new kayak racks.
Well, you know, we,
This is kind of our initiative. I know in Gerard Drive, that was a request, I believe.
well, it was a request, but you know, John, early on, as I understand it, the Parks Department was building these kayak racks. And what was really kind of unfair is they're building the kayak racks, we're renting the spaces out and collecting the money for the kayak racks. So last year, when some racks needed to be added, and when some racks needed to be rebuilt, we actually paid a contractor to do it. I think it would be good for us to just do this. It wasn't terribly expensive. Brian handled the last ones, and he did a good job of it. What I'd like to do is maybe put the idea forth that next, I can get a hold of Brian, and maybe he can engage the same individuals, price out doing,
Correct.
how many do you think we want to put down there? 3?
Maybe 24 units, maybe? Not a huge area.
Okay,
Yeah, it's a small area, but it,
but,
I guess my question is, people are doing that now, and they're allowed to do it. And now we're going to put kayak racks there and charge them.
yes, we are.
Yeah, and I don't know if
we
they're
have that
really,
authority?
They're not allowed to
They're
do
really
it. They're
not
putting the
allowed.
stuff on top of
Okay, what they do,
vegetation and stuff
what they're
like that.
basically doing right now is abandoning a watercraft on public property, okay? And at the end of the season, Marine Patrol has in the past gone around, and if they're not picked up,
They
they
don't seem to have
confiscate.
done it there, though.
yeah, it's been a little off the radar, though,
Yeah, well, now it'll be on the radar.
but it should be cleaned up. I don't think it's the
Yeah.
right way to do it down
And
there.
I think we could notice, put the racks up, notice the site, put a sign up on the kayak rack that this is what's gonna happen here. Please contact the East Hampton Town Trustees, and, give a grace period, and I think it's gonna
Yeah.
have to be at least 30 days that you let this go by before you actually start pursuing it.
This originally started at Louse Point and Settlers Landing because that's what they were doing. They were just piling them up on the beach grass.
Yeah,
Never seen
I
anybody
actually,
get under
I actually
control.
put the first ones in down at Louse
Right.
Point with the trustees
Right.
when people were just leaving them in the grass and not taking them home.
Now,
So
I
we,
do have a question about Northwest Creek, though, because
Well,
that's
that.
county land.
Yeah, I know. A call came into the office, I happened to be there, I talked to the guy. He asked about a kayak rack and a place to put a kayak. And I explained to him the nature of the ownership and its county and all that. But I was wondering if it would be, if we would be interested in contacting the county, the parks, and seeing if they would be interested in us establishing a kayak rack there over by where the beach is and they launch the dinghies and
could.
stuff. And, it's.
I mean, we already have an arrangement to manage the moorings in there, so they may be,
Right. And I think the arrangement is we manage the moorings. They understand that the dinghies can be put on the beach to access the moorings. This would be a little bit different in that, now somebody has to come launch their kayak off their car, take it home again. I don't think it would be, I think it would be in everybody's interest to be able to
Visibly.
leave some kayaks there.
as well.
I don't know how the county feels about it, but
We
I
could have a
wonder if we
conversation.
should.
I actually have a contact for a couple of the current guys that are involved with that property.
That actually could be really good.
And, the small boat storage rack is a legacy there. I know Brad Lowen was involved with arranging that for many years on behalf of the Baymen and
Right.
other mooring holders. So I think there's the opportunity for a good discussion there.
and what about Settlers Landing? Why is
I don't know.
that on this
I
list?
don't know, Arlene, why is Settlers?
Paddleboards, our poor paddleboard people are still
So looking for. a rack
crying.
down
They
there?
come and so I know there's a
Aren't
couple.
there empty
that are-
spaces there?
Yeah, there's spaces, but the old, the way it's set up,
They
you
want new
can't put your
stuff.
kayak on a pull mooring, and you can't put your kayak on, you could put a little rowboat, but not a kayak.
Talking about
And the
racks.
paddleboard, we didn't allow people to put their paddleboards on the kayak rack. We have plenty of space at Settlers Landing if we would allow
I don't know
them.
why we wouldn't allow somebody to put a board on a kayak rack.
did we
That's
discuss
when we wrote
making
the
them?
original resolution.
I think the discussion, if
I'll
I
have to
recall,
pull
is
that,
around
Maybe we can
either
just-
Louse
You
Point or
allowed them on Settlers Landing.
Gerard
Yeah.
Drive kayak racks, and people came and wanted to put paddle boards there, and I think there just wasn't room.
Yeah,
And
but
we
we
had
can always add.
Settlers Landing does have room, though,
We have
plenty.
room, maybe we could pilot a certain number of spaces for paddleboards there. and see.
Could there be a way to construct them different?
They're
Well, I
training
mean,
them
the
anyway.
boards,
It's the-
Ultimately, I
you could
think,
fit more of them. You could design a rack where you could fit more of them.
Yeah.
But you know what?
They're about the same width, but they are thinner.
But, yeah, thinner, but, you know.
Like 30 by 8, 30
So
by
then you'd
10.
actually accommodate more of them.
Well, you could, but you know what? Once you build that rack, it's really, could only be used, kayaks could only go on the top.
Yep.
And then the lower layers, you know, would be paddle boards. It might be just easier to keep the same design. And if there was such a demand for paddle boards, well, then you could always switch gears and design something that's specific for the paddle board.
It's a handful of people, and
Yeah, no, that's what I'm
Trying to chain
thinking, is
them
that
to the
there isn't really enough to go and build one of these things. If
Well,
you
right
kinda-
now, well, it seems all we have to do is decide if we're going to allow permits for paddleboards.
I think we should.
I think if we have available space, we should.
yes.
Yeah,
And should we
personal
limit-
watercraft, it's unpowered.
should we
Wants to make
limit,
Motion.
should
make
we
a
make,
motion
should
to
we
allow
limit this
paddle
motion to Settlers Landing, or should we just?
No, I'd like to,
Blanket.
because we can't, I don't think we can do this where we sort of spot zone paddle boards or kayaks. I think you got to make it across the
The
board.
kayak's currently locked, like each
A
kayak.
lot of guys, yeah, a lot of people
I think the
do.
last discussion was a liability question, because how would you be able to lock a paddleboard? Whole bunch of $1,000 paddleboards sitting there without locks, we need to be
Well,
worried
you
about.
do have the dock locks with the leash, cleat, jaws. So
Okay.
you can lock them with a dock lock.
Maybe you should look at our, maybe you should
There
look
is
at our
a, there is a
application.
device out there that's fairly effective. You'd have to literally rip the leash cleat out of the board.
I'm just saying, I think that was what you guys were discussing at the last time this conversation came
Yeah,
up.
I
is-
don't know that I was here, I don't remember that.
Okay.
Could we just include some kind of a, whatever it's called, so we're not
Disclaimer?
liable, disclaimer?
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to put a disclaimer on the permit.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Oh, who made the motion? I'm sorry.
I did.
Jim.
Who's I? I can't see. I'm in the little
Jim
shit.
made the motion. Bill?
And Bill second, thank you.
All right.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we're not building additional racks, we're just going to allow the,
Win this space.
whatever
yeah.
space is available for,
Or whatever, but you're also looking into, Jim's going to look into getting a rack constructed.
Yeah,
Out of my-
yeah, what I'll do is I'll
Yeah,
talk to
Mom.
Brian.
Well,
I'll talk to Brian, that actually worked out really well. It was not cost, it
You did a
wasn't.
good job.
Yeah, yeah.
And Rick's going to talk to some people at the county.
Yep.
And I just would say if that discussion goes well, maybe we should make a formal request.
Okay.
for Some kind of a
We'll try and get an
letter.
update for the
Yeah,
next
see if we
meeting.
can get some sort of MOU between us.
and how many spaces we doing on Maho?
I think we said
24?
3 racks.
20 Is it 24?
I think there's eight on each rack, so it's 24.
Okay.
All right. Hey, could we possibly add a little thing on 3 Mile Harbor to this?
Sure.
Okay. Loring Bulger contacted me a week or so ago, and I don't know whether you all recall Baby Beach
Yes.
and the fencing deals. Well, the town did go down here and do some fencing, and I gotta tell you, it's like awful.
The
They just-
town did?
I believe I think Parks went in there and did it. They extended some fencing. And you know what? It really doesn't do what needs to be done. It's like fencing that's out in the middle of nowhere. It looks like something you're gonna hitch your horse to.
It's post and rail, right? And
Yeah.
then some of the slats
And I
are
think-
missing.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one, it's
We
still,
put some fencing up there 2 years ago.
no, this isn't the
This is
past,
newer.
this is in the past year. What I suggested to her, and if it's okay with all of you, I'll go to Barnaby and see if he can just pull up an aerial and draw something out. What it really needs is, yeah, fencing makes sense. If it's in a spot that makes sense, it's just out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, we had-
What I think really needed to go down there is 100 yards of sand and continue that dune and kind of wrap it around, plant it, and then do that fence at the toe of the dune, just like the other fence, and you'll have defined.
For access.
You'll have defined the beach access, but more importantly, you'll have created a situation where somebody can't lose it or just drive directly onto the beach if somebody's laying there.
Isn't there also a thing that you put back into it? if you were pulling out. I remember that.
Well,
Like,
yeah, the
people-
way, yeah, no, the way it is now, it really doesn't make
Sense.
It just looks like a fence. It looks like the house at the end of Mulford Lane. It's like there's a fence just sitting in the middle of nowhere. So I think it's something that we can do. We can do something
better.
better there, and I think we can do something cooperative with the town where perhaps, you know, they supply the sand, we supply something, and you know what? This discussion about these kayak racks may tie very nicely into the realignment of this split rail fence after the, what do you call it's in there?
Biggest problem last year was on the one side of the fence where the children were. At high tide, it came all the way up to the fence, so it was no longer a beach there for them.
It changed a little
Well,
bit.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
that's why I'm proposing a couple hundred yards of sand.
Build the elevation.
So they
detail,
actually have
yeah.
something that resembles a nice
beach.
little.
You want to build a dune to define the entrance.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to see a drawing to
All right.
understand.
No, that's why I thought
Yeah,
it really
okay.
needed something, because you know what?
Yes, a site
People are gonna
plan.
wanna
Yeah.
weigh in, but you know, I thought this could be one of those little projects that could engage like a youth group to plant the beach grass or something like that, you know, and everybody
A
has,
restoration.
yeah, everybody has a little piece of the pie
Loring brought us
here.
in a map showing us when she came forward, and it shows where the fence is that's just sitting in the middle of nowhere, totally.
So let's,
It serves no purpose, really.
I think it did serve a purpose until.
At one time?
Yeah.
It just, man, it was just, it looks really
Yeah.
awkward right now.
No,
and so
it did not work
let's
well last year.
revisit the site and make it nice.
All right, committee reports, Acquabannacog Creek, Clearwater Beach Property Owners Association, Suffolk County Tax Map, 300-23-3-1, application for 2019-2020 maintenance dredging, close out the permit.
Okay, I was on the phone this afternoon with James Scafaro, and I am going to make a motion to close this out. He came into the office, paid for his permit for the dredging. Next year, it will be before December 31st, according to the DEC. So he's all set to go to dredge. The dredging was completed this past February, I'm going to say, and so I'd like to make a motion to close that permit
Okay,
out.
what I want to ask you, what happened with the dredge spoil on that? Where did that wind up?
That, I do not know. I don't have that information here, but I will certainly make a call to him and ask
No,
him.
because part of the deal here is they get a dredging permit, okay? There's a cubic yardage of sand there. If the sand was deposited on our beaches, there's no cost. If the sand was utilized in some other capacity, if the contractor took it,
Okay.
we're owed money for the sand,
Okay.
okay?
How
So
has it been done in the past? Because this is an annual
that's how it's,
permit for
that's how
dredging.
that's how it's done.
Right,
okay?
pretty
No, I'm
hard.
saying, where does the spoil typically,
Well,
in the
no,
past,
it's-
has it
I
gone?
It's gone on
think-
different beaches,
I think it's
Lion Head
gone-
or Clearwater.
I think the last time it was done, it went over to Lion Head, and that was
Most
the-
of it did, yes.
That was the agreement that the two
That was
organizations had,
2017, 2018.
yeah, had
maybe.
made with each other, but that's an important thing. You can't just close out
Okay.
this permit without asking the questions.
Okay. I will get back to the board on that.
Okay, Clearwater Property Owners Association, Suffolk County Tax Map, 300-23-3-1, closeout trustee permit, HC number 6-17 for bulkhead reconstruction.
Okay, this is also with the Clearwater Beach Property Owners Association, and I spoke again to James today and also to the treasurer. I did go up today to take pictures just to see for myself what has taken place. I always like to know what I'm looking at. The north bulkhead was done, 35 feet of core 10 steel, DEC permit for 616 feet with vinyl bulkhead and green heart whalers and piling. And so I took some pictures, and I do have surveys before and after pictures as well, if you'd want to pass those
So
through.
you
But
have the as-built after the project?
Yes, and so I have, this file is complete, but I took some pictures today, which I managed to put on USB. John, thank you.
No, it's not new, that's the original.
Let's see if I can find them. Okay. So, all right. This is heading out to the bay. Can you all see? You can see that.
Yeah.
And to make this go forward, I just do what? Click. No,
Just right-click on the screen, I think.
just right click on it.
Should say next.
Shouldn't there be an arrow on the right side? What's that?
Or that
What's
control
that thing
bar.
on the
All
left?
photos? All right, well, oops, that's not us. All right, back. Now, let me go back to this. Well, let's show, here, this is coming in from, this is the vinyl bulkheading, oh, thank you. All right, which is at the entrance to the, at the launch. And it wraps around. This is the new short dock that leads out. This is the launch area here. This was a very large job. This bulkheading goes all the way around, and then this leads out to the bay. Another picture, same picture. This is across from Lion's Head, and you can see all the vinyl bulkheading here. This part at the end, which is darker, was done, I think, about 8 years ago, he said. There we go, okay. All right, and this is a view from Lion's Head looking toward Kings Point Road. With the new bulkheading, more of the same. Oops. That be it? Maybe that's it. I took quite a few. All right, so that would be for the bulkhead. That is complete. And you have the surveys, pictures before and after? No, here's more.
Some of the red is the new stuff.
This is leading out from the Kings Point entrance to the beach, leading out to the bay.
Was that replaced then, facing to
This-
the west?
This area was replaced. It's very dark, but he said that's just the way it is when it's, gets wet and things. But that was replaced as well.
Okay, so this is the jetty coming out, so come in.
Yeah, I'm standing on the jetty. And just another jetty picture. And
So
that's
Jim
the launch.
reported that, Susan, so Jim reported that everything in the project is now totally
Everything is
complete?
totally done, yes.
There'll be no
Arlene-
further construction?
No, this is a finished job. Arlene also spoke with him. This has been replaced on both sides with the vinyl, and again, it goes around the corner and all the way out into the bay.
No, it's updated.
So this is supposed to be completely finished now with everything in place.
And then 2012 is the previous.
The photos and the as-built are over there if you want to get them.
Do the DEC permits require to be closed out as well?
This one doesn't
He
see.
has the DEC permit for next year. Do we have a
You mean
DEC
the dredging?
sign off? The dredging is separate from this for the bulkhead. In order to get this,
Proposed and existing.
My question is, do the DEC permits for this bulkhead work require closing out?
I don't know if the DEC closes out their permits or not.
Jim, was that a
But we close
revised
out 3 Mile
post-project?
Harbors.
It's revised. The only problem with this is, and it may just be the fact that the new bulkhead is exactly where the old bulkhead is, but there's nothing to discern what's new, what's old.
I see.
Okay.
We want to go over it with Jim Carfaro real quick at some point?
Probably would be a good idea, just to ensure
Double check it.
that it's right, or have the previous survey.
Right. I mean, Jim's been very
well,
accessible.
I have a whole,
you
a
know,
whole
great guy
package
to work
here with, it has more surveys, the before and after survey.
has
It's done with
huge
Baril's.
Okay, packet in
Have you
his.
well, this is a Walbridge survey here.
You have Walbridge, all right.
Yeah, the one you have here is a Walbridge survey.
All right, let me bring this up to you and we can talk about it then. But everything was in place that I knew should be in place. So if you're asking about DEC closeout themselves, as you're saying, you're not sure, does anyone know, does a DEC permit need to be
Expired.
closed out first?
No, No, I
Okay.
mean, they can close out both, but, all we really want to do is make sure, A, the work was done, but most importantly, that the work was done in place in kind where it was proposed that the bulkhead hasn't moved seaward, or,
This is a mere
Higher or
restoration, and this is
different,
the
different
vinyl
spec.
bulkheading, which is new. That is new.
Yeah, no, I can see that, but you know what the problem is, Susan, on the survey? It doesn't show the sort of before and after, and it may be just a case of looking at the two surveys, laying them up.
Okay, there should
on
be
side,
an
but,
old survey and a new survey.
Okay, I just was looking here as.
Okay, so-
What is
Francis
the,
has a big-
apparently
Let me-
the new survey.
Here. I'll pass this up to you. I have a wire. Yeah, thank you. Okay. The photos that we have from Mr. Cafaro are from after April 8th, so these are today. I took these today.
Hasn't the DEC been requiring bulkheads to be raised 18 inches when they're reconstructed?
They might have started this project before they did that.
So do we want to table this, or are we going to continue to review this tonight?
Gotta wait till Jim
I
gets
thought
off
we
his
better
phone.
table it.
Table it?
You
Okay.
want to table it? Okay,
Okay. Yeah, let's table it, we'll keep moving.
all right.
The committee revisit.
Okay,
Thank you, Susan.
you're welcome. So next is, if I can have I got to get my paper here.
305 Kings
What is it,
Point.
305?
Yeah.
Okay. So 305, I met with Billy Mack this week, and this is an application to raise the bulkheading and to replace it with vinyl. And this is a picture of it now. They want to raise it up to meet this. The next door neighbors was replaced a few years ago. And
That's going to be in place at the same line?
this is going to be raised up to meet this, yes.
Right, but it's not moving
Yes.
forward?
No, no,
Okay.
no. That's just a picture of the rocks. Okay, so you can see that this is actually being supported by a makeshift. This is bowing out, so they want to bring it up to meet the neighbors as well.
What's that bulkhead made out of now?
I
Is it vinyl?
no, it's made
Wood.
out of wood that's treated with oh my gosh, I wrote it down.
Creosote.
But it looks like
Thank
there's
you.
corrugated material in the back of it.
This is the neighbor.
No, in the back of the smaller
In
bulkhead.
here?
Yeah. I mean, that looked to me like corrugated sheeting.
He just said it was going to be rebuilt, raised, and brought up to, see here, it's been replaced. This is the black,
He might have,
bowing out. They're just going to bring it up. They're going to create, he said it would last about 50 years once it's completed. It's the newer technology, the newer vinyl bulkheading system. This person is the last bulkhead here, and thereafter it's just sand. And to the right is Maislin, and then the other people are revetment, rock revetment, and grass. But this is the condition of this individual's.
They're going to pull that whole thing out and build a whole new one?
They're going to replace
This is to the east of Maislin?
to the east.
Yeah.
And they still have revetment there only, just the rock revetment.
They're going to pull the whole bulkhead out and put a whole new one in?
But they're going to replace what's here because it's now, it's not, it has to be raised. And I should have brought the whole thing over here. Let me go get it. Explain. Okay.
Do they have their DEC permit in place at this time,
Yes, he
Susan?
does. He does. It's the reconstruction of approximately 100 feet of existing bulkhead. And he does have his DEC permits in place. Brian Frank is currently reviewing the application. And it is a repair for the bulkhead. That is the permit application for it. So I have other pictures that he's given us, as well as the survey, if you'd like to see those as well.
Do you know what the state of the ZBA permit is? Is it notice for public hearing? Is it on the,
Just that Brian Frank is currently reviewing the application. But we've always said, have your DEC permits first before we would,
Have you spoken with the planner?
sorry?
Have you spoken with the planner on the project?
I have not. I just saw this week.
Okay.
yeah, I think we should table this and see where Brian Frank is with it, see where the ZBA
Okay.
permit is with it, the natural resource
Well,
special.
do they have his DEC permit on this?
Yes,
They do.
they do, yes. This is
Okay.
Billy Mack of First Coastal.
All
From the
right.
DEC, he would have come tonight, but he was not available on Friday.
All right. Is there a reason why we would sit out and not act on this if they're sitting on a DEC permit for it?
Well, in case there's going to be additional conditions placed by the ZBA?
Well, I would
I think-
certainly talk to Brian about this and find out his position. But if his position is he's not going to approve this or agree to it, then what is our position?
Well, I'd like to hear a little more detail
Yeah,
about what
what I-
exactly this job entails.
Right there.
Well, it's a repair. It's an upgrade repair to improve.
Agonizing detail, yeah.
Okay.
That's-
Is there is the upgrade and repair, does it involve raising the
Yes, he was
the
going to,
elevation?
yes, according to the new,
And how much higher is the new bulk?
it's going to go up to 18 inches. I showed you the picture
Okay.
earlier. Let me
All
see
right.
again.
In line with the neighboring property, Jim.
All right. That's
how do I move
basically
back?
what the DEC's been issuing on these.
Yep, yep.
Okay, so,
I think, again, the meeting's coming up in, just over a week,
all right.
so it's not a
As-
long
This is the
stretch.
first slide I showed you. He is going to, they would raise it to meet the neighbors, which is
About
currently
18 inches.
permissible. And that's what they're encouraging, so that you don't have this, and you can see it's in deterioration.
Yeah.
So they're just the same, bulkhead, but with better vinyl, newer vinyl bulkheading that this neighbor has, raising it up, having it conform to be exactly in line with their neighbors.
Very good.
Oh, Out of courtesy, I agree, you should speak with Brian.
Sure.
Yeah.
As I said, I just was able to see this week, meet with Billy, so I'll make a point of going to Brian. Probably see him at the horseshoe crabs. Okay,
And then we have one more. 31 Isle of Wight,
Yes, and I
closeout permit.
went to
bulkhead.
visit with Bob Cole this morning, and went up and took some pictures of his finished bulkheading. And here it is currently. When I first saw it, and I took pictures last time, it was in total disrepair. It had been harmed by Sandy, and it just was completely torn apart. The walls were coming down, and it was horrible. So this is the finished product today. And again, the vinyl bulkheading on the interior.
Simple.
This is done, this is good.
And that's it for this. So he's all in line, everything has been done, and
We have an as-built survey on that?
Yes.
yes.
Does it match what we had, what was there before?
Appears to. Well, I don't know what was there before. I don't have that here.
Yeah,
only
I
have
remember
the
that
as-built.
survey from the last time. The survey that they had, the proposed said in place in kind, I think was.
Yeah, this looks good. Okay.
Are you making a
You want to
motion?
make a motion to approve?
Are you ready? Yes, ma'am. I'd like to make a motion to close the permit out for Bob and Kathy Kolb's. bulkheading
I'll make
repair.
a motion, Bill.
You making a motion?
I'm making a motion to close the permit out.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And I think that's it.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Those are the rest.
Okay. Now to delete these, I guess.
Where's the rest of it?
Oh, here it is. Is that Francis's? I think that's
Yeah, this goes with that.
Pull together?
All right, beaches, 85 West End Road, Suffolk County Tax Map 301-15-5-14.1, closeout permit for dune restoration and stair repairs.
Okay, if you could, that's the same owner as 93.
Okay?
I did inspect these, not with the applicant, but I just was down there doing other inspections. It's a beautiful job. They did a great job of it. It looks great. Everything's been replanted. I do have photographs, which I would have brought tonight, but I had some issues with a printer. So if you want, we could just table this and I can distribute those photographs and we can close this at our next meeting.
Both of them, 85, 93?
Yes.
Okay. 40 Association Road, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-201-1-
What's the name on this?
I don't have a name.
Arlene, do you have a name on this one?
Yes, this is the Kennedy House. The Ken-
Okay, I actually looked, I have pictures of this one as well. I looked at this a while ago. It's great, it's fine. But we can close these out actually at the next meeting. Everybody, unless everybody feels comfortable taking my word, but I wouldn't do that.
No, this
We have
down.
pictures. I printed the pictures and everyone's fine.
All right. 101 Lily Pond Lane?
I inspected this one last week. It's fine. Did a great job on the beach grass planting. The only issue we had at 101 was the homeowner or their property people installed 2 no trespassing signs on our beach, just in front of this. And again, I got pictures of all of that. I asked to have those signs removed. But if we can wait until next Monday, we can close these out.
And maybe get confirmation the signs came down.
Yeah.
Who made the vote on the Kennedy House? You
Pardon me?
made the motion?
We didn't.
Who seconded?
No, we're
Table.
gonna wait. We're gonna wait. I got
Table
pictures of
all of
all of
them?
these.
Okay.
We can, that way,
Sure.
it's neat and tidy.
And last one, 39 Marine Boulevard, closeout trustee permit for shoreline fencing.
I'm recusing myself on this one.
Oh, okay. I was just looking at these two. By the way, one survey is from Walbridge and the other one's from Burowski for the Clearwater Beach. So, I went today to see it. I had seen it before the fencing was put in, and I did take some pictures, which I did not have time to put on the screen, but we were sent pictures, and it looks terrific and wonderful, and I think it was a very
Six of us.
terrific job. I'd like to read just a note, because I think it was very well done and very explicit, from the, this is the Carter Shaluli residence at 39 Marine Boulevard.
Burl Shaluli.
Burl Shaluli?
Yeah, Carter's a first name.
Oh, excuse me, it just says Carter, all right. The installation was installed as proposed with 2 new rows of beach erosion fencing and bare root beach grass planted at 6 to 12 inches O.0.C. I had to put my glasses on.
On center.
On center, thank you. Depending on location, and 13,600 bare root clumps were installed in total.
Holmes.
Holmes. Thank you. You know, I need an interpreter here. All right, the grass is already flushing growth and establishing densely, as seen in the photographs. The supplemented existing dune area is very dense at this point. The beach fence has also begun to trap sand at its base, so the project is an early success. If any additional information is needed, please let me know. We now request that this permit is approved, completed, and closed. Thank you for your support, Matt Stedman. and I think that we're ready to go.
Want to make a
You
motion?
wish to approve, I would like to make a motion to close the shoreline fencing at this property. Permit number B, number 6-19 at 39 Marine Boulevard.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Education. Captain Rysam Scholarship Award.
Okay. I was very honored last night to be a member of the trustees that presented the award, the 2 awards to the students who received our Captain Rysam Scholarship Fund. This was for the East Hampton High School annual award system celebration. And the 2 recipients that were chosen by the trustees were Annalise Mendelman and Anna Rafferty. And I gave congratulations from all of us, and felt that they had all done a wonderful job, because they had. I think every person who's in the school system who writes an application has done an extraordinary job in telling us why they wish to be selected for this award. So I'm very grateful to the board to this year. I know typically by standards, we usually provide only 1 award, and I think this year giving 2. We had 5 applications last year. This year we had about a dozen. So we're gaining, and I really enjoyed all of the festivities last night. So many great kids winning awards, and we have such a wonderful community base. It was said last night that there was $325,000 raised in scholarship funds and given away last night by community organizations. So I want to congratulate again the school, which does a beautiful job. The superintendent spoke, and principal was there who spoke, and kids made the cooking club made all these wonderful homemade cookies. So next time you got to come.
Okay,
All right? So it was terrific.
all right.
And I missed Brian Burns. I did mention that he and I, on the education committee, that he was unable to attend, so he sent his regrets.
And Eco Day Fair, you want to talk about that?
Yes, there it is on the screen, Eco Fair. We will be represented this year with our tent tomorrow, beginning at 11 a.m. to 3. Our tent will be there, and I will be there for the full afternoon. And I want to thank you in advance for Francis, John, for helping out with your trucks, helping load up. My husband will also be helping us. And then I know you have things to do, so off you go, and I will be there. Yeah, so it should be a fun day, and we have several, I made up flyers for everybody here, if you'd like to take one home. We have numerous organizations throughout the community. It says, join your community in celebrating green initiatives by learning about local, environmentally friendly groups, businesses, and committees. So we're going to have great weather.
Yeah,
which is
and that's going to be here on the town hall grounds.
Yes, it will be right here outside. We will be under a nice large tree, so there'll be shade. We have Energize, I'm not going to read the whole list, but there's Energize East Hampton, Energy Sustainability Committee, Clean Water East Hampton, Nature Preserve, Acabonic Protection Committee, and the list goes on. Evelyn Alexander Wildlife Rescue, Surfrider Foundation, the Litter Committee, I believe, is going to be there. I thought I saw them right here. Defend H2O, and it goes on and on. But it will be interesting, and it will be fun, and I look forward to seeing you.
Good. You will make an appearance.
Good. All right. So I'll just pass these around to you if you want to add that to your file.
I have one, but that's okay.
Okay, and school outreach?
Let's see. Well, we may have something coming up with the Ross School. I'm not sure. We'll just have to coordinate with graduation and finals and things, but I may be visiting with the Ross School in the near
Go with
future
the
before
other
the school is
300
over.
and a half.
And that's all I have to report on
Great.
education.
Georgia Ponds, 25 Cove Hollow Farm Road. Revisions to a proposed planting plan and design.
This is, I had a conversation with Billy Hayjack today. They have a appointment next Friday with the ZBA for the village. This plan is still in a bit of flux. There's still some little issues with it. I'd like to table this until after that ZBA hearing, because I have a feeling this is going to get tweaked a bit more before it's over.
All right.
Excuse me.
Administrator.
Francis, may I just bring up one or two other things briefly, please? Thank you. Jim and I have been meeting with members of the Sag Harbor Village community and members of the East Hampton community that are part of Sag Harbor. As you know, half of Sag Harbor is in East Hampton, half is in Southampton. And we've been talking about navigational safety and water quality. So we are weighing in on the new waterways law out in Northwest Harbor. And perhaps more importantly, we have been having discussions with members of the Sag Harbor Village Harbor Committee and private donors who are contributing to Dr. Goldberg's water testing in the Sag Harbor Village area. As you saw in the paper, Havens Beach has become a real hotspot for fecal coliform bacteria. We have the sewage treatment plant, which does discharge directly into Northwest Harbor. And there's areas of Sag Harbor Village that are actually below sea level, and now there's standing water that's being pumped directly into the harbor, and we don't really understand what's going on with the water that's being pumped. So there's a lot going on. A lot of the residents there are really finally getting their heads around this issue, that it's really important. There's been some recent observations of a lot of macroalgae that's bloomed in Mauritius Bay, in Shinnecock Bay, in Western Peconic Bay, kind of ahead of schedule. Water column is getting filled with, very small particles of seaweed. The water's getting murky. There's different changing conditions going on, in part probably due to the excessive rains that we've had. So, we are really trying to help them get on track with this water testing program. And there is a 2019 initiative in play. Last year, we donated $5,000 to the process that Dr. Goebel is leading. And, at some point this year, I was hoping that our board might consider participating at the same level in the program. I know they are trying to get their own municipal conduit for the funds, so we don't have to be the banker of this for this year. I'm hoping they'll be successful, but that has not been solidified yet, so that is another outstanding item.
But it worked out last year, the way we did it.
We finally got the money, Dr. Goldberg. It did disrupt some of his work because of the difficulty the university system has in hiring. It takes a very long time to hire. So if he doesn't have monies in hand at the beginning of the program and he needs research assistants or field personnel, he might miss the window, critical window being July and August, highest water temperatures, the most usage of septic and sewage treatment and so on. So we really need to try to make sure it goes off without a hitch this year.
Is 5,000 enough?
I think so. I think we have a meeting Monday. I think that's a fair contribution, and Jim and I will have more feedback at the next meeting. I think if we could maintain our level of support, it would really help them to get over a critical hump in making sure this program is successful.
There's been some real problems here in terms of the individual participants' goals and of what they thought the testing would give, what was involved in the testing, what the results of the testing were. Rick and I had a couple of very difficult meetings over the issue, and Rick did a terrific job of refereeing the exchanges.
We made some good
on
progress, though, I
this,
think,
but I think
Jim.
we finally have everybody sort of on the
So
right page.
how does it look going forward? I mean, is everybody now on the same page, or?
I think so. This Monday, we're going to
Actually,
review.
they may not be on the same page, but at least they're reading the same book.
We're in the same harbor.
Yeah.
But I think this Monday, we're going to try and sort out some of the details that are ahead of us, John. So I think we have a better report to give at the next meeting.
So are all these disparate groups still contributing, or is this, they wait?
Well, I think
That's part of the discussion.
That's part of the discussion here, because, the village had one view. The Sag Harbor Yacht Club had a slightly different view. And then there was the issue of the management of the funds and a timely disbursement of the funds to the university was another issue. So I think those things are mostly worked out.
So I guess if we authorize a $5,000 contribution. Will that help in your next meeting? Will that help?
Well, there
move
was a
things
question,
forward?
you know, we did have this sort of anxious moment where a representative of the village said that we were not willing to do it. And we were told that she heard that from our financial people, and,
Who are our financial people?
well, that's what we identified ourselves as, the financial people, and it kind of confused it even more. I think it's a worthwhile, I think the endeavor here is worthwhile. I would like to see us support this for another year. It does overlap in some of our water bodies, and I wouldn't want to give the impression to the public or to the people in Sag Harbor that we're kind of abandoning them. But in conjunction with this, moving forward, I think what's very important is on that new waterways law, is that the language that was in the state, that was incorporated into the state law, be carried down through. And to date, that hasn't occurred, and we're still working on that, so.
the
And
next
that
public hearing.
was making sure East Hampton residents get equal access.
Yes, the reciprocity between the two.
Right.
Do you want to authorize the 5,000 now pending
Well,
everything else?
My
or-
question is, I mean, money, all the monies haven't been committed, so what is the nature of the project? Is it?
There is a proposal for the 2019 water testing, which I can share with you, John. We just got it from Dr. Gobler. And the total cost this year will be $28,000 for 5 sites of testing. Havens Beach, the outflow pipe from the sewage treatment plant, one in the coves, a control site outside the breakwater, and possibly another maritime site or otter pond.
Is that an increase
That's
from
what,
last year?
2 or 3?
The last,
What's happened is it's not 28,000, what happened is it's more than that. The community
money
was,
left over.
what happened is.
project work left over.
Right,
Dr.
right.
Gobler recognized that some of the goals that were set last year didn't get achieved, and some of that was on his team. So what he's doing is he's been very generous in crediting some of the work this year.
Right. One is a nitrogen loading model,
Yeah.
which is important, and the other is the DNA analysis of the fecal
Yeah, so
coliform
this-
bacteria like Georgica. So they're rather extensive studies that will really help the community there understand, and the trustees understand what's going on with these input sources.
So those 3, is that 3 sites in East Hampton side, on East Hampton waters?
There would be at least 3 on this side, yeah.
Yeah, but it's all interlocking, it's all interconnected. You have to do the whole.
Well, can we just suffice it to say that they can go to the meeting with the confidence that we will approve?
Oh,
the
yeah, sure, no, I
think that's
I
a
just
good-
was.
That actually, I think it was might be a better
Okay.
thing.
Question,
because-
I have a question for you. In your opinion, do you feel that the wastewater management plant is the larger source of,
That's what the
Pollution,
purpose of the
right?
study is.
but doesn't that seem,
That's-
from what I've read myself, it seems as though it's a large
It's not
contributor?
necessarily,
I
it's
would-
not necessarily a
yeah, I would
fair
not-
statement.
I would not go out on a limb
Yeah.
and basically do anything that's intuitive here, and that's the purpose of this study,
Yeah.
is get real, honest, hard
Mm-hmm.
numbers.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to sort of basically convict without ever,
Yeah.
without
That's
any
just how
have
the
such a low water
the
tank.
news story first came out, that it was
Yeah, but we don't,
maybe,
Well,
And it may very well be.
There's Havens
Wastewater.
Beach, there's low septic systems, there's a lot going, they're geographically
tons
challenged.
of rain. Okay.
They're geographically challenged, that's the.
we have to get the numbers before we start looking for the guilty parties.
And I did have one other quick thing, Francis, I'm sorry.
Yep, no problem.
You know, there's been a lot of discussions about Northwest Harbor and all the little holdings that we have around Northwest Harbor, ranging from Little Northwest Creek to Northwest Creek to Barnes Meadow to Elwife Brook. There's all these little tributaries, nooks and crannies. There's trustee roads throughout the Grace Estate. There's trustee roads throughout Barcelona Neck. There's beach areas that are adjacent to the county. There's beach areas adjacent to the state. There's beach areas adjacent to private property. And we've never really done a proper cataloging of all these holdings. And some of them have been cross-claimed by other jurisdictions, and it's really kind of complicated over there. I was wondering how the board felt about possibly getting a proposal for someone to actually catalog these properly and maybe systematically start to take a look at them with a little more diligence to clarify property lines and/or, how these properties have evolved over the years. So,
Is that going to basically involve title searches?
I mean, phase one, maybe not, I'm not sure. Ultimately, if we were really going to get some hard answers to some of these questions, yes. But, first, like Rick had done a basic cut at cataloging all of our holdings, and to date, that's really the only ownership document that I'm aware of. And and a lot of them are, marked with a question mark at the end of them. And I just thought that maybe it was an opportunity to start a more systematic approach.
I'd like to make a motion that we solicit proposals on this. I think it's a worthwhile project.
Yeah.
Some really great, environmentally sensitive properties that I think we can really help, and they're kind of sitting idle right now because I think no one's really clear on how to move forward with some of the restoration that's needed. Like Little Northwest Creek, to the west of Barcelona, has a huge shoal in front of it. The channel now runs in front of the neighboring beaches where there's some historic, homeowners associations, and the beach is completely eroded because of the creek mouth running in front of it. So there's little, projects that I think we could really effectively weigh in on, and we just need to get a better handle on them. That's just one
That's an
example.
excellent idea.
Are you going to write it up?
Excellent idea.
Yeah, I'll write it up.
Because you know what you're looking
Yeah,
at.
I'll write up a
It
request
adds
for
to the
proposal.
history and the wealth of what the trustees
Yeah, it
own, and
goes-
it's history.
It goes back to Cedar Bend. The first whaling ships came into Northwest Harbor, many, many years ago. So I think it's an interesting endeavor, and I'll write up an RFP, request for proposal, run it by the board, and we can hand it out to a couple people.
I'll second it. Motion.
All in
Thank you.
favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Payment of the bills. We have Ocean Graphics, $912 for kayak rack and trustee road signs.
How many signs do we get?
I don't know. Did we pick them up yet?
Dell was working on that one. He said he was going to pick them up.
Okay.
Okay.
It wasn't a huge quantity. It was a couple of dozen, I believe, of different sizes.
I think that's what we said.
Yeah, I think 2 sizes.
But we got a bill from her, right?
Yeah. Matthews, Kirsten Cooley, $1,693.75 for legal fees for swag.
May I ask a question on that
Yeah.
one? Are we kind of getting to the end of the
We're
road?
done.
I think
on
we're
that
at,
one?
I think
That
this
should
is
be the end.
I think this is the closeout.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Do I have a motion?
I
Motion
make a
to pay
motion
the-
to pay the bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we have minutes to approve, February 25th.
I make a motion that we approve that. I did it back in February after the meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
March 25th.
Same, I read those back right after the meeting and made all the corrections I thought were
Second.
necessary.
All in favor?
Aye.
April 22nd.
I also corrected those or added anything, so I approve of those. If anybody else has anything, I know, John, you also,
Yeah, I'll
Read
second.
them.
I'll second that.
so that's a motion to approve. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
And May 1st, the special meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And financial report. Has anybody had a chance to review that?
No.
Okay. You want to
But I
table
do
it?
have, I'm just going to bring this up again for financial, if I may. The Captain Rysam Scholarship Fund, I did a little talking with you, Jim, at one point, out taking pictures about putting the funds into an interest-bearing account that we could start to actually see some principal from the funds that are going into it to grow it. And I'm wondering if we have any movement there on anybody checking on
I think when we
how to
had
go
it, there
about
was,
it?
I think there was a discussion that we had, this was prior to the Georgia dredging, was that we would take some of those monies and apply them on an annual basis to the Rysam Fund to try and accumulate a principal balance there. And hopefully, the goal in the long term is to be paying these scholarships out of earned interest as opposed to eroding a principal balance
Yeah, with a little bit of yield curve now in play in the market,
Yeah.
it is a possibility.
So I believe the amount that was discussed was $10,000. We could go back to the minutes of those meetings and reaffirm that.
Yeah, you want to do that for the next meeting, we can vote on it and get it going?
Okay, that
Yeah, I
would be
think that's a
terrific,
good
'cause I'd
idea.
really like to see this
Yeah, and
grow.
if we could try
Very
and
worthwhile.
discipline ourselves to, on an annual basis,
Making
To-
some contribution.
to make you kind of have to commit yourself to an amount every year. And ultimately, you will build that amount, and the interest will build that amount, and hopefully, we could get to a point where the scholarship itself is paid out of the interest, and there is still an accumulation of principal there, that, it would be really nice for future boards if they had a scholarship fund that allowed you actually to fund more than one scholarship. Stuff would be good.
I remember that meeting, but I don't think, you may have suggested a number. I'm not sure I'll be able to find it. It might have been more of a discussion, so maybe the next meeting, we'll just pick a number
Okay.
and go with it. It may be hard to find, but you definitely talked about the dredging, so.
That number sounds
Isn't that a
right,
little
though.
different than what Susan brought up, though? I mean,
No.
No, this is
Well,
exactly
it's
what,
tied into it.
yeah.
The instrument to put it in and how to maximize yield perhaps could partner with that discussion.
Yeah, I thought that's what you brought up, is putting the Horizon Fund into a more,
Well, the dredging,
Well, it was
the dredging I
twofold.
recall.
It was putting the RISM fund in some
Interest-bearing.
interest-bearing account, but we're gonna need to.
Commitments.
That fund is eroding every year that we issue this, so it doesn't have many years left before there is no RISM fund if we're not,
isn't it in an interest-bearing?
it is, but we don't, but you know what it is
CD.
we're writing,
Interest rates are dropping again.
Yeah, I mean, we were at, like 0 or 0.15.
Yeah,
There
it's
was
like
there was no curve.
next to nothing.
There was no yield curve.
yeah.
So I got the impression that what Susan was asking was considering putting that into something that would
Yes.
yield more.
Try and get something that
build
gets
some
a little
interest.
bit, gets a little bit better yield, but over and above that, we did have a discussion
Putting in money. from-
About the Georgia Pond dredging.
making a real commitment each year to that RISE
Funding
fund.
source.
Yeah,
And obviously, the more we have in the fund, the more interest we will gain, albeit small, but it will be a long-term process. And as Jim's saying, the future boards, my objective, and I think all of us, is to grow this fund so that we can
it's
afford it.
self-supporting.
Yeah, and we're not diminishing it, we're actually growing it.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we have to go back to the bills. On this back page, I see some notes here. Ocean Graphics bill is $912. There's a note here that there's $75 left off the agenda for samples.
Samples of what?
The,
I found the second bill after
That was by the
everything was
ones
done.
Dell brought in last time.
okay, so when you add the 75 to the 912, it's 987, but you're showing 1,000.
I put wrong math, I'm sorry. I found the bill, it had slipped behind the other one, and
So the amount due is actually $987.
thank you very much, Francis.
Okay,
Can we?
thank you for.
You guys good with that?
I'm good.
Yeah, yes, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And that's it, as far as I know. Is there anybody else who has anything?
I'd like to bring the board up to speed a little bit more on the Sag Harbor expanded jurisdiction. Rick and I had the opportunity to attend Sag Harbor's last meeting several weeks ago. Rick and I both attended and spoke with, I'd say, varying degrees of success. But there is opportunity there. I think they have another meeting coming up, not this coming Tuesday, but the Tuesday after that. My game plan would be to have a written document prepared and ready to submit by then. In the meantime, I'd like to speak with their attorney, Liz Vale, this coming week. I think she's the author of the bill, and it's my understanding that the original language did have some language that protected the trustees, just like the New York State bill did, but that maybe somehow along the line that that language was removed. We were told at that meeting that maybe it was a bit redundant. Jim, I think we spoke about this as well, and we disagree. So I'd like to approach that this week and have something prepared for you guys going into that next Monday meeting, and then their meeting's Tuesday right after that. So I think we should attend again and maybe make some good headway in the meantime. And I'll start by not only writing something up, but reaching out to Liz and getting that conversation going. But the bottom line is there's really strong language in that New York State bill that protects our ownership and managerial rights, and basically states that the language, any language, needs to be consistent with the language of our code as well. So we'll see what happens with that, but we'll keep a close eye on it and stay involved and attend that next meeting. But nice job as well, speaking, Rick, at the last meeting. I thought you did a really nice job. And
Thank you.
we'll stay at it, and happy to talk to you guys some more about it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone want to make a motion?
Motion to close?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Rick did it.
All in favor?
It never fails, right? I mean, you can count on that.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend.